Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host Tony Cañas, pitching the second in a double hitter today. And today I have with me Filip Sierpinski, Director of Business Development, and Bryan Saunders, Director of Growth and Marketing at Painworth and Painworth Pro. Thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Good. You nailed my last name, so I'm happy that, not everyone gets that. So I appreciate you getting it right. But it's going well. How are you doing, Tony?
I am doing fantastic, and actually, Bryan missed this one. But I was telling Filip just before we started recording that you guys are the only thing separating me from a delicious steakhouse here in Buenos Aires. Very excited for this conversation. But if I look like I'm in a hurry, it's because I'm hungry. So. Yeah, thank you for joining me today. And let's see. So it looks like Filip is in Toronto, and so you're both in Canada, Toronto and Edmonton. So given that the rest of the world, well, the rest of the northern hemisphere we're July 25th, 2023. Most of the northern hemisphere is in the middle of a heat wave. Yeah, I'm in winter here in Buenos Aires. I'm guessing that in Canada it's downright beautiful right now, basically, when you're normally frozen.
You are absolutely correct. It's been beautiful in Toronto. I always tell people if you're going to come visit Canada, July, August, and June, the summer months are the times to visit. So it's definitely the best time of year in Canada right now.
Okay, and by the way, I will be. So I had been to 70 countries, and I had never been to Canada until earlier this year. Finally, went to Montreal for a day and loved it. And now I'm gonna be at Broker Tech Fest by Amplified Broker Tech Fest in Alberta. I think late September. So anyway, very excited to see a little bit more of Canada. I don't know if that's anywhere close to either of you, because my Canadian geography is limited to it's way north, basically. Okay, so we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. So, what is Painworth and Painworth Pro? And before we start, for the listeners, before we start recording, Filip and Bryan were discussing who is going to do the elevator pitch. We have decided that that they're going to do it juggling on one foot while using a unicycle and going one sentence each of them. So good luck, guys. So what what is Painworth and Painworth Pro?
I think we can do this in one sentence. So
No, no,
Painworth.
take as long as you want to. I'm just
I'll start with
giving you
yeah. I'll
context.
start with Painworth. So Painworth was created to help claimants understand how to fairly value a personal injury claim, so that they can settle, manage their claim on their own in full trust and transparency with the insurance company without having to involve litigation or any middlemen. So really looking to speed up the process and make it cheaper for everyone.
Okay, and one of the things that I pride myself with is I rarely look at the company's website before the podcast recording so that the listeners can see my reaction. So I'm going to assume that Painworth Pro is the carrier side of the same equation.
100%, yes. I think it's worth noting that our CEO was hit by a drunk driver in 2019. Painworth is a pandemic company, and it was really born out of our CEO's Mike's personal experiences, right? And he went through the claim process. He hired a personal injury lawyer, ended up firing that lawyer, and just saw how broken the process is. And so as they launched Painworth, we actually have one of our clients who sat us down and said, hey, you know what, you guys are only looking at 50% of the problem. He's like, you have no idea as an insurance carrier how much my overhead goes up as soon as litigation gets involved. And so At that point, we were just looking at the claimants and providing a better experience for them. But that's when we realized there was a real opportunity for the carriers as well, because their overhead costs with the adjusters, with the litigation, it really goes up in the extended cycle times. So that's when we spun out the Painworth Pro version, and that's for the professionals in the industry and the carriers to be able to use our application to work directly with the claimant to resolve any type of BI claim, slip and fall, general liability, to really expedite that process and do it in a so where they're reducing litigation, because that's a key value prop for our clients, is to really, if we can help insurance carriers stay out of court, that's a win-win for both sides.
Okay, this makes perfect sense. I was only a claims adjuster for 2 years. The first of those years was wonderful, where basically I was taking the call, putting the claim in the system, and handling only if it was a clear liability, not a total loss, no injury. So it was a great job, basically. If anything hard had to be done with the claim, I would send it to the next level. And then the second year, I was a MedPay adjuster, not BI. My best friend was a BI adjuster. And holy crap, like not nearly as fun of a job. And then I've spent a lot of time over my career chatting with claims leaders, usually about staffing and recruiting, but yeah, chatting with claims leader. And I've had a few different guests on the podcast that are trying to do something in this space. And normally I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and basically like Atlanta has two very interesting features other than decent weather in the winter. Number one is the best airport in the country by far. Number two is the gigantic interstate that goes through the city, and basically every other billboard is injury lawyers. Like truly incredible. One of those lawyer firms has this giant office in downtown Atlanta with a statue of Atlas holding the world in front of it with their names. Like these people don't have small egos, basically. Like they really think that they're I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but what I've heard, what my understanding of this process is that basically the moment an attorney gets involved, the cost of settling the claim not only increases, but the person, there's no guarantee they're gonna get more money, because the lawyer is going to take a third of it, right? In some states, a fourth apparently, or even more than that. I've heard numbers as high as a third in Florida. And the guaranteed thing is going to take forever, right? So, and I don't fully understand what leads to it taking forever once an attorney gets involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, how does so I totally understand the need for Painworth. Great mission. And I definitely understand the need for Painworth Pro. I'd love to hear more about how Painworth Pro actually helps carriers with this process, and how it makes the process better.
So everything that you said there, like very true. The lawyer, from what we've seen, if all they have to do is write a letter, like a first notice of loss or demand letter, they might be taking 20 or 25%. But in a lot of cases, they're taking closer to 30, 35, even 40% once you factor in all the court costs and disbursements. And so this sets them up for a situation where they have to ask for an unreasonable amount, so that the claimant feels like they got a better deal by hiring the lawyer. Because if the insurance company was already offering me something fair, and now I've got a lawyer involved, the lawyer now has to ask for an unreasonable amount so that they can say, look, I got you more than you were going to get before. And so that can often delay things quite a bit. We've also heard a lot of stories of a claimant goes to a lawyer, they give all the details to the lawyer, and then they don't hear from the lawyer for 2 years. And this is apparently very common, where the lawyer will just wait until the statute of limitations is just about to expire, and then they'll let the insurance company know that there's this claim pending against them. Because now the insurance company is going to be scrambling to figure out the reserve, they're going to be scrambling to try and settle this, and now they're on the back foot, right? They're getting put at a disadvantage. But it's really not helping the claimant out, because a lot of times these claimants just, they've got bills to pay. They haven't been able to work. They've got rent. They've got medical bills. They didn't ask to be hit by a car. And so we've had a lot of people, a lot of claimants using our system saying, hey, I hired a lawyer, and as far as I can tell, my lawyer hasn't done anything for 2 years. And I can't figure out how to fire them. And even if I fire them, there's a clause in the contract that says they still get some of what I get. And if I hire another lawyer, they still get half. So it really isn't very fair for the claimants. The flip side of it is those claimants that are able to get a lawyer, they usually have a really easy case. They have a case that's worth a lot of money and the liability is very clear. And so the lawyers want to take those on because they go, I'm going to get a really easy, big, fat paycheck. The claimants that can't get a lawyer are the claimants that have small claims or the claimants that have complicated claims or where the liability is maybe a little bit more complicated. The lawyers don't want those claims. If they have the choice between an easy, big claim and a small, complicated claim, they're going to take the easy, big claim all day. So the people that really need the information and need the help aren't getting it. And because of that, they become a bit of I'm trying to think of the right word here, but they become a bit of a roadblock for the adjusters in trying to settle the claim because they have so many unanswered questions. They don't trust the process. They don't know how to fairly value a claim, and they can't get the help of a lawyer. So the reason that you have these really long cycle times sometimes is because the adjuster literally has to guide the claimant through every single step of the process and get the claimant to trust them. So that's where we come in on the claimant side, and then I'll let Fel jump in on the adjuster side.
Yeah, so to answer the question of how Painworth works, so at the key of it is an assessment that you're able to generate, whether you're an adjuster or a claimant. You can go on, for a claimant, you can go on the application, and basically you will input what your injuries are, what happened in Canada, what province, and there's different jurisdictional thresholds. But basically what the application will do is that it will then, based on the inputs, tell you what your injuries are worth. And this is all based off case law here in Canada. And so it's going to give you a very clear value of what your claim is worth. And it's going to give you all the historical case law to support it as well. And what's really important in the claim is we also use like a carrot and a stick. And so we talk about how long it can take to settle the claim. In Canada, it can be up to 5 years, so that's kind of the stick. And then the carrot is basically the cost of a lawyer, making people aware of like that 33%. It can be a big number. So, when you sign the dotted line saying, I'll give you 33%, people don't quite realize what $100,000, that's $33,000. And sometimes not a lot of work. So this assessment clearly outlines, be like, look, here's how long it's going to take. If you do get a lawyer, this is what's going to cost you. Even if a lawyer is already involved, it can help to really outline what the heads of damage are. And that assessment, we say, really brings in transparency and trust to the equation. We like to think of ourselves as almost like a Switzerland. And what adjusters can do with that assessment is they can share it with the claimant, and that way they can work with the claimant around the Painworth assessment because we don't have any skin in the game from the insurance side, and they can use us as a neutral third party to negotiate that claim. Because one of the biggest things we find with our clients, it is that trust standpoint. Unfortunately, in the insurance industry, carriers, the paradigm is they don't have the most trustworthy reputation. And a lot of people, when they get a claim or an offer from an adjuster, like, oh, my broken arm is worth, $80,000, they're like, well, that seems really low. It's like, you hear on movies all the time how it's going to be like $250,000. So people have these preconceived notions, maybe from the media, that it's going to be this like home run, they're going to get a big paycheck, when the reality is going to be a lot lower amount. So where Painworth really comes in is we show what that claim is worth, because you can't really Google or ask ChatGPT, what is my broken arm worth? So our data science application will pull what those injuries are worth. It'll create a neutral, fair assessment that whether you're the claimant approaching the insurance company saying, hey, I want $80,000 for my arm, or the adjuster saying, hey, your arm is worth $80,000, here's what Painworth has assessed your injuries at. And that's really what we're able to provide either party to help move the process along without necessarily involving lawyers.
On the claimant side, go ahead, Bryan.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting is when you talk to professionals in this space and you ask the lawyer, well, why are you asking for $150,000 for the broken arm? Their rationale is like, well, I asked for this once and I got it. And so you just have to trust me. That's what they'll say, trust me. And then you go to the adjuster's side, and usually they're a lot closer to the real number, but maybe they're trying to get away with maybe $60,000 or $70,000, and they say, well, why are you offering $60,000 in this scenario? And the adjuster says, well, it worked for me once, so you just have to trust me that this is what it's worth. And the problem is the claimant doesn't trust either of these people because they're both kind of just pulling a number out of a hat using their past experience, but they're not showing the work. They're not showing how they arrived at that number. And we show all of that work. We show you all of the supporting case law. We match it to the severity of your injury, the severity of your injury cluster. We adjust for inflation. And then we do, in addition to figuring out what your injury is worth, we do all the other heads of damage as well. Loss of income, out-of-pocket expenses, medical expenses, loss of housekeeping. And we show how those are calculated and what that's based on. And so, we don't say trust us. We say don't trust us. In fact, if you see something wrong with our numbers, tell us. Because we want to make these numbers better and as transparent and as trustworthy as possible.
On the Painworth side, not pro, what is the pricing like? Is it a percentage of the overall claim? Is it a how does the how does Joe Public
So we
pay
were
for the service?
we were born out of necessity, right? My best friend got hit by a drunk driver, and so we have a claimant product right now that is 100% free. We'll always have some version of the product that is free, because for us this is an access to justice issue as well, right? When you have people with even very small claims and they can't get a lawyer and they're being told to just trust the insurance company, well, they have no one to turn to. We talk to a lot of legal aid societies, and legal aid societies will not help people with personal injury claims. So where do you go? You can't get a lawyer because your claim is too small or too complicated. You can't go to the legal aid society because
might
they
have
won't
lost
help
Bryan.
you.
Yeah, I think where he was going is like your
we
claim is
want to
too
be that
small. You
resource
can't
for
get a
people.
personal lawyer. You can't turn to legal aid. They're not going to help you, right? And so that's really where Painworth comes in. Is at least they can get an understanding of what their injuries are worth, and they can work with the carrier directly and make that decision whether they want to involve a lawyer or not. We're not opposed to that because some things are very complex and they require an attorney, but lots of times our application is more than sufficient enough to be able to help and allow that person to settle the claim on their own without involving litigation.
I gotta say, very cute how you guys can finish each other's sentence. Uh, Great job.
That's the
Okay.
growth and the BD together, right? Sales and marketing got to sit side by side. If we can't work yin and yang, there's something wrong with the company, right? That's for sure.
And very often that is this is not an unusual thing. Okay, so I love the fact that the front side of Painworth is free, and we'll always have a free version. That's fantastic. Um, is it only available in Canada for now, or are you already Canada and the US?
No, so right now it is Canadian based only. Actually, that's part of why we're on here today. So we do have a strategic goal to get into the U.S. this year. We're actually looking for a co-development partner in the U.S. So if anyone is intrigued by what they're hearing and would be open to exploring this, we've talked to different VCs, we've talked to different carriers, and so this is something we're actively into right now. And we do want to bring the application into the U.S. market. And so the way that we built it out in Canada is we worked with a nationwide carrier, we ran it with them, and then we were able to expand it and go from there. And so we want to do the same approach in the U.S. side where we work alongside with a carrier and really modify the application for that market to make it a success there as well.
How big of a carrier? Because so like State Farm
Yeah, so
might be too
yeah,
large,
so
right? And the Farm Bureau of Wisconsin, the Farm Bureau of Wyoming might be too small, right? So like, what type of carrier would be a perfect fit?
Yeah, so we've had different feedback where you're right, a national might be too big, right? It's just not the right
Oh
place. Even
no.
if we did it, we would definitely go on a specific geographic region or a state by state, just because there are different, the same way in Canada with provinces, there's jurisdictional differences. So on a state by state, there could be no fault, there could be caps, things like that. So we would be open to working with a mutual potentially and just rolling it out in one state, right? I think something on like the mid-size or smaller is probably going to be a better fit for us. But there's lots of these bigger carriers that have really good innovation teams now, and they're looking to be on the cutting edge. And a lot of the bigger carriers are actually subdivided into smaller businesses, right? So they might only have they have an office that does California. So we're open to just about anyone, but we do recognize that probably would be a state or a few states in a key geographic region of the U.S. So whether that's Florida, U.S., the Carolinas, we're looking at different places, but definitely Texas and stuff like that, where there's PI going on, or a lot of it, then for sure. But we're open to working in any of the states, and anyone that'd be open to working with us.
Okay, so we have Bryan back. If only he knew the things that you promised that he would do when he got back.
Sorry about that. Internet dropped out.
No worries, no worries. It was actually like I was really impressed. He was able to like finish your sentence. And then we started talking. And by the way, thank you for like tripling my editing work with you coming in and out of the other conversation. I might, in order to keep the so Riverside records us each on our own feed. So basically, in order to avoid the feed becoming just two and then three again, I might temporarily replace you with like a really funny picture. So just so you know. So anyway, so we talked about Painworth Pro. We talked about the pricing, how it's free for in the normal Painworth for the people. We talked about how you guys are only in Canada. What kind of partner would be good for the U.S. One thing I don't think we've touched on is what is the pricing like for the carriers? The carriers that are part of Painworth Pro, how is that? How is that priced? Is that priced by the claim, or what? How is that priced?
Yeah, so we have two different models going on right now. We have a model where it is a claim cost on each one, and then we also have a SaaS model for like more of a case lookup tool, right? So it really depends on how they're using the application. But yeah, we do have a SaaS option and a per claim option as well.
Okay, what is integration like? So like I don't know if in Canada you guys have the same issue we have here, where we have carriers running on 50-year-old COBOL and Fortran systems that are investing billions of dollars in transitioning to somewhat modern systems.
Yeah, so the joke is always that Canada's 7 years behind on, insurance and legal tech, and so it's the U.S. If you think you're behind, we're even more behind. But yeah,
Okay.
so unfortunately, a lot of our clients do have, self-made in-house claim systems, or there is a shift. There's definitely people going towards Guidewire, things like that. But even if these carriers are moving to Guidewire, like it takes them 2 years to migrate over, just because it's a
Oh,
very complex
easy.
situation, right? So yeah, if not more, by your reaction, right? So yeah, it's one of those things where it's not an easy switch. There's definitely a move towards, being more tech forward and having more modern claim systems. At this point in time, we're not integrated just because all our clients currently have different systems, right? So we haven't really, but if we got into the Guidewire ecosystem, which is on our roadmap, that is something we'd want to do to provide integrations for those clients. And if there is a need for integrations, right, that's something that we can do. We have the dev infrastructure and capacity. It's more just kind of, being able to work with an existing infrastructure or having APIs that would facilitate that in a more feasible way.
Okay. Fantastic. So when you talked about 7 years behind the U.S., what came to mind is a chisel and hammer type thing, and not even the facts, but like Robin Hood Men in Tights, where they use that actual fox. So it's the actual animal. They tie the paper to it, and it runs to its destination. So that's what I visualize when you talk about technology 7 years behind the U.S. Insurance business. Yeah, incredible. Okay, fantastic. So I love what you're doing. I think this would be a gigantic thing for the U.S. market. So VCs listening to this, potential partners, whether they're carriers or kind of insurtechs that are somewhat aligned, give them a call. Like this is something we could definitely use in the U.S. market. I'm guessing the U.S. market is even more litigious than the Canadian market when it comes to personal
It's
injury.
about 2 times as
Yeah,
litigious.
that's what we.
Is it twice as litigious?
Twice as litigious, yeah.
Okay, not surprising. Something like 90% of the lawyers in the world practice in the U.S. It is absolutely insanity. Guys,
Well,
thank
and
you so
even the
much.
claims are a lot more expensive too, right? Like even from our initial research and the carriers and the people we've spoken to in the US, we were at InsurTech Insights in New York and had a lot of fruitful conversations there. And the reality is that these claims in the US, it just there's way more caps and restrictions in Canada, while in the US there just isn't as much of that. And so it does create for much more expensive claims. As soon
Okay.
as lawyers get involved, it's going to be a huge cost for the carrier, and the amount that claims are setting for is higher down there. So we really feel, and that's why we are pushing to move into the US. We feel like there's a huge opportunity, and that it would really benefit the marketplace down there.
Okay, so you guys were at InsurTech Insights. Did I do magic for you guys at Insights? If I
We
didn't,
did
catch
magic
me
for
at
you too,
ITC.
actually.
I'll be the one with the top hat. Well, you do magic?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I did a trick for you. Yeah, yeah. We that's
Oh,
part of how we met. Yeah, so I showed you a basic card trick, nothing to the extent that you do, but yeah, I did show you a little trick that I
it
have.
shows you like how bad my memory is, and especially at conferences where I'm sleeping like 3 hours a night, and ITI like we had the huge wildfires, right? Like the sky was yellow. Like that's what I remember about ITI. For the rest of the year, so we're recording in July. We're coming into the fall conference schedule here in the next couple of months. Where might we run into you guys? Whether it's Canada or U.S. conferences in the fall.
Yeah, so we're looking at a few. No super final decisions yet, but more likely than not, people can catch us at InsurTech North in Montreal. And then we're looking at a couple in the States in the fall as well, but those decisions are actually going to be made next week.
Okay, fantastic.
We'll
Thank
probably
you.
be in Vegas. Like, so in Canada, there's the big NICC conference in Montreal coming up in September, the Future of Insurance conference in November in Toronto, InsurTech North. Like, yeah, so all the key ones in Canada that we're always at. The two that we plan on going to in the US is going to be InsurTech Insights in New York, and then the upcoming conference in Vegas. So that's and as we move down into US, we probably expand our conference schedule. But for the time being, we continue to focus in on the Canadian market, and then we are allocating some resources to really find that co-development partner into the US side to really be able to push down there.
Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you guys in Vegas. And look forward to have you back on the show in a couple of years once you're down in the U.S. because you can definitely make a big difference here. It is sorely needed. The distrust between claimants and or even insureds and insurance companies is horrific, and the litigiousness of the U.S. is insane. So we need all the help we can get. Please come
Yeah,
on
and we
down.
like we like to say that basically, once a claim become represented, and I think even more in the U.S., it goes up at least a 50% cost, right, for the carrier. So it's like if you're paying out $100,000 claim as a carrier, the reality is you're actually spending $150,000 out here in Canada. And if you look at that $100,000 breakdown, 33, call it 40% goes to, fees of the lawyer. So the claimant only gets $60,000 for 150. So we're like, how is a carrier spending $150,000 to put $60,000 in the injured party's pocket? That's a broken system. And what we've seen with
Oh,
Painworth is a very
oh.
similar example where a claimant will actually settle for a lower amount because one, they can get the money quicker, and two, they're cutting out those legal fees. So even if they net $80,000, that's a win for them because if they hire a lawyer, they're only going to end up getting 60,000 anyway. And we see this again and again with their application, where they're really able to, settle a lot quicker. and then the overhead can be much lower for the carrier. So let's say there's $20,000 there. So it's a 50% savings for the insurance carrier to be able to do that. There it's a $100,000 or $80,000 claim costing them 100, while if they pay at $100,000, it's actually costing them 150 with litigation. So we've seen a lot of positives, and even when claims are represented, we've seen examples where the assessment works to really help work with the lawyer, the attorney, to really move the claim along. So there's a lot of benefits, and I think, yeah, we're really excited to get down into the U.S.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe we can send you a couple of screen grabs after this interview and you put those up. While Phil's saying that, because
Absolutely.
we have some good like illustrations of that point of like how it breaks down and like how both parties can be better off. It's really interesting for us to be able to say like it's a win-win, and people look at that and they go, well, how's that possible? But it is once you don't have that litigation in there. And I think one of the interesting things, Tony, and just I think a last point is we're seeing tools out there now that are making it easier and easier to litigate. And so if anything, like a product like Painworth is going to be needed more and more, because what we're trying to do is discourage litigation. We don't think it's a good use of the court system, especially when there's formulas and rules about how this stuff is supposed to get figured out. When you can just do the arithmetic of like what is your lost income, what is that broken arm worth? Why does this have to go all the way in front of a judge, or why does it have to almost go all the way in front of a judge and take 5 years and incur all these court costs? And I think there's better things that the court system could be dealing with, quite frankly.
Agreed, 100%. And yes, send the screenshots over. I will definitely include them for the listeners. I will tag both of you on LinkedIn when it goes live. I'll tag the company when it goes live. Also, if you could email me the list of the Canada conferences you're going to, because I'm trying to become more active in Canada. So thank you both so much for your time. Look forward to have you back in a while for an update. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It's super interesting and super important stuff.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure to be on your show, Tony.
Until next time.